doesn't love a good water slide? For many of us, visiting a water park can be the most fun that you can have on a hot summer's day. However, some water slides took things a bit too far and posed some very serious health and safety risks for park goers, with many of these slides ultimately being banned from the public. Number 10. Calypso Waterpark is located in Canada and has proven to be one of the greatest water parks in the country. It is home to endless hours of family fun and entertainment and several great water slides. With over 35 slides to choose from and 100 different games to play in the water, you're sure to find something to keep yourself entertained at this massive park. However, you may have also found yourself severely injured if you visited the park in 2015. Steamer Slide was the name given to a large water slide that used to reside within the park. However, after numerous police visits and ambulance calls, Steamer Slide was forcibly shut down. The ride was found to have contained over 20 different safety violations that had wounded several riders. It was shut down completely and banned from the park entirely. It's unclear if the park ever corrected the issues and reopened the slide, but we can safely assume that the slide was likely torn down at some point. Number 9. Peninsula Aquatic Recreation Center, also known as Park, is a water park that is most well known for a pair of water slides that were linked to several accidents over the years. One of the most disturbing occurrences took place several years ago when two adults hit their heads while on the ride and had to be treated for serious head injuries. The ride was shut down for 10 months while adjustments were made to lessen the possibility of injury. However, within a matter of days of reopening, another accident occurred that injured a woman's back. After this, a young boy fell out of an inner tube while on the slide and was beaten around inside of the tunnel system before eventually making his way out at the bottom. The boy was supposedly unconscious for 15 minutes after emerging. The park was shut down again, but eventually reopened in 2014. However, Aquasphere, the name given to this dangerous slide, did not reopen. While employees were testing the slides once again, several injuries occurred. The water park firmly believed that they had corrected all of the issues, but the slides were eventually torn down and rebuilt using proper safety techniques. Number 8. If you're watching this video, you have likely heard about Action Park, one of the most dangerous theme parks to ever exist. The park originally opened in 1978 and was known as being one of the most extreme parks in the world. However, by 1996, the company was forced to shut down after a series of deaths had occurred throughout the years. The park has been reopened several times since then, but it is currently closed and has been since 2016. Between 1978 and 1996, at least 6 fatalities occurred. Reports seem to indicate that park goers had suffered more serious injuries than the police could count, which is what led to the park's eventual closure. In 2010, however, the park did reopen, and one of the water slides in the park was once again linked to several serious injuries. There was a 10-foot drop that took place at the end of one of the slides, with the riders being dunked into a pool located below the drop. Within just a few short years, dozens of injuries had been reported, and the park was forced to close again in 2016. Many of the rides in the park have since been declared banned since they do not follow proper safety protocols and have led to such an astronomical amount of injuries over the years. Number 7. This slide was also built by Action Park and was so poorly built that it is a miracle that the ride ever opened in the first place. The name of the slide is unknown, but it is likely one of the most dangerous rides to have ever existed in the park. The slide was built out of warehouse rollers and had incredibly sharp corners that would very easily cause some serious injuries. The slides were very steep and had several seams down the slide, which meant that riders were forced to ride in plastic sleds going down, though most riders fell off of the sleds on the way down and were pinched by all of the seams that lined the inside of the slide. Even worse is that the slides emptied into a pool that was less than 2 feet deep, meaning that your head or butt were almost guaranteed to smack the concrete after you exited the slide. Employees were also frequently allowing guests to begin the slide without the previous guest having exited the pool first. which meant that collisions were commonplace and an unforeseen number of injuries took place on the slide over the years. It is incredible how Action Park managed to remain operational for so many years when their safety precautions were non-existent. Number 6. The Black Hole was the name given to a water slide that was located at Wet n Wild Water Park in Orlando, Florida. This park has since been shut down and the slide was demolished due to safety concerns. Most of the issues that plagued Wet n Wild were related to this particular slide that many guests were fearful to go down. The slide involved several twists and turns, and guests would ride down the slide on a two-person float. In 1994, a man was hurt so badly on the ride that he won a $1.73 million lawsuit against the park. The man says that he was hit by an unknown object while in the slide, and when he arrived at the bottom, he was unable to move his legs. He was taken to the hospital and was diagnosed with a serious neck injury. A surgical procedure was performed which placed a metal plate in the man's neck to help alleviate his pain and other symptoms related to the incident. Several other injuries occurred throughout the years, many of which involved inner tubes colliding with one another in the dark. The park was finally shut down and it has not been missed. Many guests were too afraid to take part in any of these rides, which led to the park's eventual decline and closure. Number 5. The next slide should have never opened in the first place, but the park was insistent that the ride was perfectly safe regardless of its design flaws. Known as Cannonball Loop, the ride was essentially a very tall water slide with an extremely sharp loop located at the base of it. The loop appeared to be nearly impossible to complete without some form of injury, and this belief proved to be true. The slide opened in 1985, but only lasted about a month before law enforcement shut it down. There were allegedly very few individuals who ever rode the slide, as most guests feared for their safety. The only confirmed riders were a group of Action Park employees who were each paid $100 in exchange for riding the slide to test its safety. Injuries obviously took place and the slide was banned. Number 4. Cedar Point Water Park in Sandusky, Ohio is the self-proclaimed greatest amusement park in the world. However, its rafting ride, known as Shoot the Rapids, has been called into question and was shut down after a horrible accident occurred in 2013. Several people were inside one of the rafts when it began rolling backward down the track, collided with another, and were ultimately both flipped over. The worst part is that all of the occupants were strapped into their seats upside down and unable to breathe. Thankfully, park employees were able to flip the raft before it was too late, and the ride was eventually shut down in 2016. Number 3. Hawaiian Falls Water Park was subjected to a major lawsuit in 2015 when an individual became stuck inside of a water slide about midway through the ride. Now, this wouldn't have been a major issue if it weren't for the employee that sent the person down the slide without this man exiting the slide first. The collision, as you can expect, was horrible. The man later sued the park for $100,000, and the ride was banned for a brief period while safety measures were employed and workers were trained to wait until a rider exits the slide before sending another one down, even though that really should have been more common sense by now. Number 2. One of the most dangerous water slides in the world is not located in a water park, but your own backyard. The slip and slide water slide is known to have been the cause of countless spinal injuries in young children and adults. Surgeons claim that slip and slide can cause major compression of the spinal cord, which can lead to lifelong injuries that may never heal. There have been several court cases to get this product removed from store shelves, and a ban on the slide is currently pending, though it can still be sold in most markets in America. Number 1. The worst water slide injury of all time has been claimed by the Schlitterbahn Water Park in Kansas City. The park wanted to claim that they had the tallest water slide in the world, so they built the Verrückt, a slide that reached over 170 feet in the air. The name translates to crazy in German, and the name certainly makes sense when you find out that a young boy was killed on the ride after his raft went airborne and he struck a pole. The young boy's family eventually sued the park and were awarded $20 million. The company that designed the slide was largely held responsible for the incident. The ride was eventually banned and shut down by 2018. It was dismantled and forbidden from ever reopening. If safety weren't an issue, which of these slides would you be most likely to ride? Are there any slides that you are aware of that we didn't mention in this video? If so, let us know in the comments. Thank you so much for watching, and don't forget to hit that like button and ring the bell to keep up to date with more great videos like this one.